Welcome to this this session about well, it's about PHP 5.5, but I can also talk about PHP's future. We are talking about actually internally about PHP 5.6 or something like that. Well, even new features, but let's focus first on this 5.5 release. Okay, so let's go. So I'm Julien, Pauli. I'm French. I used to work for BlaBlaCar. Now I work for Sensio in Paris. I'm the release manager of the 5.5 release together with David Soria, which is we are two people releasing PHP. I like PHP, I like open source software, I like C programming, I like Unix programming, things like that. And I like sharing my knowledge, you know, with people, so talking to you or writing articles or technical stuff, books or things like that. So you can find me on GitHub and Twitter, etc. You know all this. So this is why the elephant. Okay, so for people who didn't know why the elephant, this is the answer. This is just PHP and the elephant. This is funny. I like to show this picture at the beginning of my talks, just to answer the question, why an elephant? Let's start first by talking about PHP releases. Here you can see the dates where we used to release PHP in the past. Okay, so it's very sparse. It's not very clean release dates. It's just we released a version whenever we wanted to, and not whenever the public, the programmers, the people wanted to. So it's been very bad in the past. Now, starting with PHP 5.4, we have a clear release process, okay? And this release process is written detailed in an RFC on our wiki, if you want to have more details, but basically, it says we're gonna release a new major, well, major or minor, it depends on how you understand it. We release major every year, starting from 5.4, okay? The versions are supported by the community for 3 years of life. It's 2 years of life plus 1 year of security fixes, and then it stops. We dropped support, and we support the next version, okay? And we have revisions, versions. This is fixing bugs every month. So starting from 5.4 and then, sure, 5.5, we have release every month for revisions, for bug fixings. So we are now at 5.5.5, and then next month 5.5.6, etc., etc., etc. And then next year should be something like June or July, the next PHP version, which should be something like 5.6, but it's not yet sure. It could be something like 6.0, but I cannot say. We really cannot say. It all depends on the IDs we got, on the patches, on things like that. We are not very sure, but we start having a good sight about this. So this is important. This is actual. That does not mean that in the future we won't change this release process. It's actually something we are practicing, we are testing, okay, starting from 5.4. If the community is, we have great support for the community, or if it's okay for the community to have this release process, then we will continue with it. If it's too short, too long, or something like that, we probably will modify it in the future, okay? But actually, it's like this. So expect a 5.6 in next June next year, then something like a 5.7, a 5.8, or it could be a 6.0. We don't really know, but we will communicate about this in the future when we know. So 5.6, 5.7, what am I saying? Let's talk about 5.5. And you can help us, okay, with PHP. It's not very hard. You can help us in many ways. Everybody thinks that, yes, you have to know C language, you have to know PHP internals, which are quite hard to know, to contribute. No, that's wrong. There are many ways to contribute. One way we tend to forget about it's the documentation. You know, the documentation is something really, really nice, which kind of made PHP what it is nowadays. Okay, it's very well translated in many languages, but it's all free work, you know, it's contribution. I do it for the French documentation on my spare time, like yesterday evening or this evening or something like that, when I want to, when I have time to, because I like the language, I want to push it, I want to support it. It's free on my spare time, and you can help us with translation. You can help us by reporting bugs. Reporting bug is something to take seriously. It's about knowing it's a bug, showing it's a bug, and eventually, if you can add a patch, then it's okay as well. It's better, but you can at least report it on bugs.php.net. You can help us with the infrastructure. We had security problems a few days ago. There are not so many people contributing to PHP, okay? They do this mainly on their spare time. Sometimes they get paid for that, but it's not always the case. So we always need people to help, and helping is not an individual thing. It's about getting in the community, knowing how it works, and then working together, like on every open source software. Okay, so we would need help. So you can help us. There are many users, PHP worldwide, but not so many contributors. So if you want to help, you can ask me, or you can send a mail to the mailing lists, telling what you want to do. And we will sure welcome you with a smile and with enthusiasm. It's very nice. So let's talk about 5.5 now. 5.5 new features. I selected some features about 5.5. That's not all the new features, that's the main features, the main new features, the important ones. You have minor ones, little ones, you can get them on the documentation. Same, I will show you how all those stuff works, but I won't get too deep because we have time. It's just a presentation. If you want to get deeper, the documentation is up to date nowadays for 5.5, so you can read it. It's very nicely done. And you can talk to me or any other PHP guy who knows that later in the conference if you want more information on a specific subject. So let's talk about new features. Technical ones, and then engine changes, you know, like a syntax or things like that. And then what breaks compared to 5.4, and what's the future of PHP. So, password hashing API, cool feature. We'll see that in a minute. Generators, which is a kind of iterators, modified, something strange if you don't know it. So perhaps it's better to document yourself about about the subject before testing this in PHP, but you see it's not that hard. The finally keyword, perhaps you know what it is about try catches. An important feature, an Opkg cache, which is now integrated in PHP. I will talk to you further in a few minutes about this. And then engine changes. So, a new password API. Well, PHP is very, you know PHP, it's easy to learn, easy to develop, and we, as contributors, writing code and making PHP, we try to think for the user so that the user has little code to write, and this little code does many things internally, okay? And there was something strange about PHP. It's a web language. It handles databases and network stuff and things like that, but there was, before 5.5, no way to identify someone and check against credentials, a password, in an easy way. That's something crazy when you think about PHP, because it's a language which tries to make the web easier, but something crucial like identify someone and check against credential was not included in the language. Now you have in PHP 5.5 a very nice, a very cool, a very easy, a very fluent API just to check about a password, just to log in a user on your website. You know, the easiest thing, the thing everyone knows how to do it, but there are many ways, many things like salting, hashing, crypting, and things, just crazy stuff. And then everyone does it in its own way. Perhaps it's not secure, perhaps it's too secure, perhaps it's too CPU, the CPU cost is too intensive for what you want to do. Now PHP has added new functions to both make a password, a encrypted password, and check against it with very simple and easy functions. Look at this. Let's say you have a password which is the string secret. Wow, this is secret password. You now can generate a hash with just one function call and then store this hash somewhere, let's say in a database field. And PHP takes care of all the complex stuff behind the scene. Okay, so you have a password, you hash it, and you get something like this strange string. You don't have to know anything about it. And then you store it somewhere in a database, and then when the user comes back and then tries to log in, you just have to password verify what has been provided by the user, and then it returns true or false, and that's it. Okay, that's all. Nothing to think about. It's very easy. So you have the hash, and the password verify function is just the reverse as the password hash function, and it just returns true or false. Okay, so that's very nice because there's nothing more to do. Sure, as usual, PHP lets you take hand on the internal stuff if you want to, but if you don't want to, you don't have to do anything more than this. If you want to take hand, to have hand in the internal stuff, I will let you watch the documentation if you want to get deeper in this, but you can see that the password hash has many arguments, and you have constants which will tell which algorithm to use, and an array as a third parameter which give details about the algorithm to use, like the CPU cost, the custom salt if you want to have a custom sort. If you don't want, it will generate one for you, and things like that. So you have options to take hand on this, okay? Usually you don't need, but if you want to, you have them. Just one database field to store your password. You see, it's a string which encapsulates all the technical stuff, like the algorithm used, the sort, the cost, the hash itself. All is stored into the string. You don't have to care about complex stuff anymore if you just don't want to. It's like like PHP. It's easy. Just get things done, and if you want them to be done in a specific manner, you still can take your hand on this, and it's a quite cool feature, which seems simple, but it's been not that simple to add in the language. So now it's in 5.5. If you want to, you have a custom, a PHP-based implementation of this to backport on 5.4 and 5.3. This one is C-based. It's integrated in the language, but if you want to try it with the old version, which are current version, like 5.3 or 5.4, you can grab the code on GitHub. It's a PHP-based library, and you can just try. It's exactly the same API. You can just try it. It should be written on the documentation, if I remember. It's been, no, it's okay. It's a little bit cut, but no worry. Let's talk about another cool feature, which is called generators. Who knows about generators in programming? No, nobody? Raise your hand. No. Yes, one person or two. Generators are something which is not PHP based. You know, it's a special manner of using iterators, and it's implemented in languages like Python or JavaScript or C# or language like that. So perhaps you could go and for those language and see how it's been implemented, so that you get an idea. Or if you just don't want, let's talk about PHP and let's show how PHP now integrated generators in the new 5.5 version. Sure, you have big documentation stuff about this on the php.net website. So what is a generator? A generator is something which should be used if you want to get a quick and dirty, well, not that dirty, but a quick and dirty iterator. You just don't want to implement the iterator interface and define the 5 methods, you know, current, next, and things like that. It's good, it's nice, but for easy stuff and for quick stuff, it's just a pain to implement iterators. The iterator or iterator aggregate interface, sometimes it's just too long and too bad to do, and that's why you should use generators about this. This is an example of generators. So generators added a new keyword in PHP, which is called yield. Okay. So if you have this word in your PHP nowadays, then you cannot go to 5.5 because you have a problem, but sure you don't have, I think. As you can see, generators have been implemented in a very specific manner in PHP, in that they are implemented in a function which is not a function, okay? It's something crazy. Now, why we did that? You know, PHP, we have a contract. We have a manner of thinking which is do not break everything when you go to the +1 version, or break little things. So we used function to add iterators so that we don't add so many keywords and new structures and new syntaxes, you know, complex. It's just get what's done and add new feature on it, and that's what we get. And that's very cool and very easy to use. So you have a function, and this function, you get it, and as you can see, it does not return any value. It's forbidden. You cannot use the return keyword together with the yield keyword. You will get an error. Okay? You get a function, and this function, you yield fields, and the yield keyword will throw values to the for each loop, as you can see here. So when you have yield called, it means that when you're gonna iterate over the generator, it will give you the call as the value, and then in the second iteration, you will have a key and a value with a syntax you should be used to, the array syntax, and then it ends, okay? This is a very easy example. You can start finding much more complex example on the web, as PHP 5.5 is now something like 5 months old, and people just start using stuff like that and doing things which can be very, very nice, very cool. So what is a generator internally? What is $gen here? It's not a function. It's not internally. We use this as an object. Okay, as you can see, if I dump the gen variable here, you have an object of the generator class, okay? And this object implements itself the iterator interface, okay? So you can call the iterator methods on it, like next, current. You have more methods than the iterator because it's a generator. It's a little bit more complex. You can see on the documentation. This makes you think you should be used to that. As in PHP 5.3, we added a very, very cool feature, which is called closures. And closures are internally implemented as object of the closure class. You should know that nowadays. And it's the same that's been done for generators. Internally, it's an object. If you just try to reflection the generator class, you can see that it's a class which implements iterator, okay? And like closures, you cannot use this class and this object directly. You cannot instantiate a generator object, okay? Nor you can extend the generator class. It's internal, like the closure class, you should know, okay? If you want to make a generator, you have to write a function with at least one yield keyword inside. Then the compiler will compile your code and notice that you have a yield keyword into a function, and it will turn that to a generator internally. And if you have a yield keyword, you just don't need and don't have and cannot have a return keyword because it's not internally a function. It's just a generator. This is something new for PHP programmers, but believe me, it's PHP, so it's a matter of just hours of practicing, and you have something which is nice, and then IDs are coming, and then you can do crazy stuff with generators, generating generators themselves, and things start getting crazy. Like you could have a closure which just returns a closure, which returns a closure. It's the same. You can do crazy stuff with this. Anyway, this is a class, rewind, valid, current, key, next. This is the iterator interface. And then this is used internally when you yield. Then it calls send, okay? It's things like that. And throw is about throwing, exception in generators, because usually you cannot rewind a generator manually. You have to use for each. It's going to throw an exception and use this method internally, and you can as well use it if you want to. It's just more complex, and you can see examples on the documentation, sure. I recall it's not a PHP feature, PHP stuff. It's a programming language stuff, okay, generator. So just try to see how other languages implemented that, and then come back to PHP and see, oh yes, okay, it's been like that. It's cool. Yes, we talked about generators. We just talked about throw. Then when we talk about throw, we talk about exceptions and try catches blocks, okay? You know PHP has no finally keyword. Finally is something really nice you have particularly in Java or C++. Now starting with 5.5, we added the finally keyword. It just works like it works in any other language. There is nothing more to say, okay? It's code that will be run anyway, whether you stay in the try or whether if you go in any catch block, it will use the finally block at the end, okay? Like you can see on this flow chart over there. So it's going to use this anyway if it goes in try or catch. It's been asked for many years, and we always answered, you have other ways to do. Yes, you can do with other ways, but there are some edge cases where if you don't have finally, you just can't get your stuff done, or in adding lots of codes everywhere with error handlers and things crazy like that, exception handlers. So we finally added this to the language. You could use it something like this, okay? So PHP, a very, very easy thing. It's just a presentation with a MySQL connection. And then if you want to close your connection in any way, any manner, having exception, having fatal errors, or anything, you can use now the finally keyword, and your code will get executed anyway. There are some tricks if you use things like exit keyword, or if you use things that I'm sure you don't use, like go-to features or things like that. If you have tries into tries with finalies everywhere, the engine just does what should be done. If you, as you can expect, if it meets an exit keyword, it won't run the finally block anyway, because exit is just stopped now. All those little edge cases are all documented on the php.net documentation. It's very, very easy to check. So I won't show them here, but you can sure get more information on the documentation. Finally. Other changes is, no, we don't support Unicode. So you have lots of ways to try to support it, like MB strings or the internationalization extension, which you perhaps know. In 5.5, it's been massively worked on and improved. It's like you have twice the number of classes compared to 5.4. So this extension, which is used to handle characters, numbers, and things like that in every country. So this extension, which is really nice in 5.3, even nicer in 5.4. In 5.5, it's twice big. Okay, so very nice. If you use it nowadays, you will have great new features if you use 5.5. Curl has been updated as well. Just classical to manage the new curl implementation, new libcurl. We don't support Python less than 2.4 anyway. We upgraded some libraries and we added some new functions. Just you should, if you don't know array column, just go and try to see what it does. It's very nice. It's something PHP users tend to write, tend to write back in PHP itself. Now it's done internally. Array column, it's very nice. Process title for CLI, API, and lots of bugs fixes and things like that. Wow. Other changes. And sure, so generators, new password API, the finally keyword, some extension has been upgraded, and the language itself has been upgraded. This means the manner you write it and it executes your code has been a little bit changed. So here are the changes you can expect from 5.5. It's a little feature. It's been asked for years as well. For each now supports the list structure. Okay, I recall you that list is not a function in PHP. It's like a function, but it's not a function. Okay, it looks like because it got parentheses and parameters, but it's not a function. You could not use list, the return of the list structure directly into a for each structure before 5.5. So when you had an array of arrays of values, if you wanted to iterate and get the inner, the deepest values into the arrays, you just could not do it in one line of code. You had to for each the first array. Then for every inner array, you had to list and get the values, because list could not be used into the for each structure. Now you can do it in 5.5. Perhaps you will never use it, but PHP it's always like that. That's the feeling I personally had. It's it could be cool if I could do this. Oh yes, PHP supports it. Okay, it's when you need it, just perhaps once per year, you have it. Yeah, that makes you have a cool language. It's always been like that. Sure, you don't have everything. Nothing is perfect, but we try to do things more and more useful for users, for end users. So list into for each structures, it's okay. Multiple iterator, perhaps you've never used that, and I guess you've never used a multiple iterator. It's an iterator which gets into it two iterators, and the first one will be iterated to get the key, and the second one to get the value. And there was a problem with this. It's that behind 5.5, using for each something as key value, you could have any type in value, but you could not have a complex type in the key. Okay, for each could not get you with keys that are arrays or objects. It's not possible. Keys, not values. Values, you get anything you want. Okay, starting with 5.5. You have to use an iterator to return complex keys, and now it works. Before it just threw something like warning: key value cannot be array, and for every loop, warning, key value cannot be array. Now key values, this variable can be of any type now. Okay. Before it could not, it could just be an integer or a string. Now it can be an array or even an object. And using these with iterators together with generators, and you can have very complex structures which can look very, very bad at first sight, but which are very cleverly designed. So it can be used together with new features, and it can be very nice for you if you need it just once or twice. It's not very common, but now PHP 5.5 handles that very nicely. What changes next? Well, perhaps you need to do that. And if you need to do that, with 5.4, with 5.3, you just could not do it. Now in 5.5, you can dereference constant expression directly. Okay, so if you have a string like PHP and you want the first character, so the first index of the second character, H, you can now use the brackets and directly extract this like in arrays, okay? It can be done directly. It's more concise writing. Use it, don't use it, I don't know. It's anyway, now we can do that. Sometimes I had people saying, yes, you can have arrays, but you cannot get directly, so put this in a variable and get directly on the same line, keeping it readable a little bit. Now we can do it. And it works, like you can see, for any dimension, any deepness of the arrays, you can do this. Well, use it, don't use it, I don't know. Same, use it, don't use it, bool-val function. You know, we have a int val, string val, things like that to get to cast special types. Now you can use a new function which is called bool-val. Why we added it? Because usually we cast, okay? We just don't use functions to transform the types in PHP. Usually what we see, it's just casts. It's type between parentheses, just behind a type, and it converts it. You have function, nobody uses them, but functions are useful when you want to use them as callbacks. And now you can use bool-val as callback, which will transform this array to Boolean values. So like with PHP trans typing rules, so you will get something like true, true, false, true. And then you can turn this to integers and have maps and things like that. Well, it's little function just to show in these slides. This is interesting for those of you using objects, and I guess everyone now uses objects nowadays. We added in 5.3 something which should have been added in 5.0 but has never been done. But it was ready in 2004, but the contributors disagreed on the ways to implement namespaces in 5.0, so we added them in 5.3. And then when you have namespaces, you have a problem. It's that when you are into a class which is itself namespaced, you cannot get the fully qualified class name easily. Okay, this is very nice to get if you want to use. This is a concrete, useful example when you use PHP unit test cases. If you want to get a mock object of yourself or of your own class, why not? You cannot get back the fully qualified class name before 5.5. Okay, you had to write it by hand. This is, or to construct it by hand using the underscore namespace underscore magic constant, which gets the current namespace. Then you concatenate with underscore class underscore, and have you got the backslash or not, or should I? Now you have a very, very special internal constant which has been added. It's a virtual constant. Okay, which has been added to every class. This constant is itself named class. It's not randomly chosen. It's because it's a reserved keyword and it cannot hit against a future constant of yours in your class, because you cannot have a constant of yours which is named class, because you're going to have a parse error. That's why we named it class. It's uppercased for sure. And every class now has a class magical constant, which just gets you the fully qualified class name. It's something like underscore underscore namespace concatenated with underscore class underscore. Okay, it's magical. It's automatic. Every class has this. It's good. I had this problem starting with 5.3. So now in 5.5, it's solved. One very, very nice feature, perhaps the nicest, well, it depends on your point of view, is finally we added a default Opkg implementation into PHP release. Okay, it's been asked for something like perhaps 10 years, because nowadays you cannot run PHP with no Opkg cache on a production server. It just does not work. Let's say it. Okay, so starting in 2000, and you had many caches which were developed, like IPC, you know it, and Xcache or Turk Memory Manager, something Dimitri Stugov implemented itself, and Opkg is based on this, or your vendor Opkg solution, which could be just nice, but it was a mess. PHP, you download it from php.net, you put something in production, it just does not work because you have no Opkg cache integrated into the language. It was something so strange. So we added something called Opkg. Opkg is the name of what used to be Zend Optimizer Plus, which is the Zend company Opkg's cache solution. It was closed before 5.5, and then just freed it and gave it to the PHP community, starting with 5.5, to integrate it directly into the language. So, what to say about this? First, Opkg is bundled as an extension in PHP 5.5. So you download PHP 5.5, you directly have in the ext folder the Opkg code. It's compiled by default, and you have to enable it in php.ini. It's just a .so object, like you're used to, or DLL if you use Windows platforms. It's in 5.5, it's implemented as an extension. It is planned in next PHP version to fully merge its code into PHP core, so that it's not an extension anymore. It's bundled, it's merged, like a code merge, directly into PHP. It's not very easy to do. That's why we started releasing it as an extension in 5.5, and it should be probably in the next version, probably something like 5.6, it should be directly merged into the core, so that you cannot, you have no extension anymore. It's clean, you know, it's clean code. Opkg has been released as well as an extension in the Pickle website, so that you can download it, and it supports PHP 5.2, 0.3, and 0.4. Okay, so you can use it with PHP 5.2, 0.3, 0.4 nowadays. But be warned that any new feature which now is added to Opkg won't support 5.3 and 5.4. Okay, we have lots of difficulties internally to support old PHP version, whether they are used or not. It's just a matter of time. We are dozens of contributors, and we have to support 4 PHP version. We do it nowadays for Opkg, but in the future, probably that support will be dropped for 5.2, 5.3, and even 5.4. But it won't impact you as we use it in the compile time. So if the Opkg cache extension guesses that you use, let's say 5.3, it will disable some features that are now added in the default 5.5 release, okay? Like some optimization passes that won't be backport even in 5.4. Anyway, the cache just works for every PHP version. APC is now dead. It's not really the case, but APC is very hard to maintain. I will talk about this later. It won't be upgraded anymore in the future because it's very hard to maintain, and now we have a default cache. So what's an Opkg? Well, just to recall you what it is, it's something like just prevents PHP code from being compiled at every pass. So you should use this in production. I will give further talks about Opkg internals, how it works, and etc. If you want to attend this in the future, in the year to come. Things like that. So APC is very hard to maintain. It's a mess. It's no, you cannot do it. It's just Rasmus and 2 people at least knows how to do, and they don't work anymore on this because they have no more time. So 5.4 has been. APC still nowadays is not very sure at 100% to work with 5.4. It's so complex. It suffers from historical bad low-level designs. Anyway, now we have a default Opkg. Just grab it, try it, give it a try, and if it's okay for you, just try to if you can afford this, just try to replace APC by Opkg, or in a further server upgrade, perhaps you should consider using Opkg now, or if you have another cache from yours, it's just okay to use it as well. Just try not to enable 2 Opkg caches in the same PHP, because it's going to be sports and sec faults everywhere. It's going to bug. Do never enable 2 Opkg cache or more in the same PHP. It's APC has something that Opkg does not have. It's a user cache. You know, the functions APC store, APC fetch. So we know this, and a contributor, just grabbed APC, threw away all the Opkg cache, and just kept the user cache functions and named it APC user, APCU. APCU is APC without the Opkg cache engine. So now, from my experience at Blablacar, we use Opkg with APCU as a user cache, because we use APC as a user cache. We used to use, and now we use APCU as a replace, and it's just runs nice. You can grab this on Pico. And Opkg is PHP licensed and will be upgraded together with PHP. So when we released 5.4, APC was not compatible with 5.4, and we had to wait for years before APC was something like somehow compatible with 5.4. Now you can get 5.5, 5.6, 5.7. You will have an Opkg cache default implementation which just works. Okay, we support it like we support PHP. APC is still supported, but there are very little commits, no more commits in APC, or a little bit. Now we focus on Opkg. What breaks? Nothing. Well, yes. extension MySQL has been deprecated finally, so that's it. It throws deprecated messages, and in 5.6 it won't be added anymore. We dropped support for old Windows. We dropped support for functions you never used and you will never use. The breaks are very, 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 very little compared to 5.3 to 5.4. Okay, very little. If you use just the first one, perhaps could impact you, especially very, very, I guess, old codes, but that's all. That's all for me, okay? And minor changes in pack, things like that. And performances, what about PHP 5.5 performances? So you know, perhaps, or if you don't know, I tell you that going from 5.3 to 5.4 has been the biggest boost in performance PHP has never had, okay? So 5.3 to 5.4, expect on our production server, it was twice fast. So it was 20 servers, 10 servers with 5.4, okay? 5.5, we are not wizard, no magical, no magic. 5.5, it's little bit faster than 5.4, but not that 5.3 gap, 5.3 to 5.4. It was something like 20%, 30%, or even more, 50% performance, not for 5.5. So last slides, and then I will ask for questions. This is something like on a platform, run a PHP unit, so this is CLI. So you can see that between 5.3 and 5.4, you had less time. It's not twice less, okay, but it's just PHP unit in CLI. It really depends. You know that performance is something you cannot really give numbers for, but those ones are real. And 5.5, you see that you have, yes, this should be just a measure error, something like that. You have a little less time and the same memory footprint, and same from 5.3 to 5.4. You had very, very low memory footprint. We optimized lots of things in 5.4. In 5.5, it's a little bit less. So the engine performance test, which is, you cannot see it at the back, I guess, because it's little, but it's just easy tests like try to fetch get, try set, try to fetch a constant from a class, try to just create a new object, okay? Just let's see, create a new object. In PHP 5.3, it took about 1 second 7 for this, and in the total is 20 seconds. In 5.4, it's 50% less. You can see it was, for this one, just at random, it was 1.7, and now it's 0.8. And in 5.5, it's barely the same, you see. Sometimes we, you see the empty line, the third line of the second was 0.2, and now it's 0.26, and it was 0.25. Okay, so the total time is the same, so we have nearly the same performance in 5.5 than in 5.4, a little bit more. It's a little bit better, but don't expect a huge boost like 5.3 to 5.4, which was something never done before. Okay, but it's still better. That said, 5.5 and every PHP version adds new features to the language. Together, it decreases the runtime. So we have to keep this in mind as well, that we add features, but we don't, the engine performance does not suffer, it's the opposite. Okay, we try to optimize things a lot. Okay, so thank you.